We got things to do. Oh, let's get to work. Well, this is nice, real nice, real nice. Flat open in the markets again. I mean, that's probably going to be just the nature of the game. You know how this goes. It'll just kind of mega penis itself out of here one of these days. But in the moment, we're just kind of grinding. The market itself is digesting an incredible amount of news flow right now from your deltas, and you got all this inflation talk and so on and so forth. So we're just kind of in a weird consolidation. But if you can see here, like we've been trending pretty well. The one thing to always remember with markets is we'll take a flat day in the market any given day. Like you saw yesterday, the day before, right? There was a lot of runners in the market, even though the actual indexes are flat. So I wouldn't put too much space into hey, the markets are just sitting around. Flat markets are frankly a lot easier to trade, at least when they're on the top of the range than, when they're on the bottom of the range. Now, the only kind of, sore spot in the market so far has been that the IWM is still stuck in range. And so at that point, that's where you get the choppiness in some of these small caps. But in general, large cap tech, large cap, a lot of things have been moving. Same with mid caps. It's really been, and even small caps, like you're seeing spaces where they're still flying around. Now, it's not a broad-based run like you had in February and January, where all small caps are going. And, I think that run brought probably a lot of new traders into the market, because everyone's like, oh shit, look at all these fucking $2 stocks that are running around. And that's not usually the case. Small caps are turds for a specific reason, and they always have been that. And that's just the way they go. They go in cycles where they're hot, and then you want to trade them. And then there's, other cycles where they're just not so hot. Let's take a look at some of the earnings plays. And then from there, we'll kind of look at, the overall general watch list. And there's been a lot of good movers in stocks with range, guys. When you're thinking about your own trading, right? You're thinking about your own trading, and you're thinking about your personal results. One thing to always do is, on a weekly basis, see what the big ranging stocks were for the week, and were you trading them, right? Were you trading them? That's where it first starts, is am I in the right names? So if you weren't trading mRNA or BNTX or so on and so forth yesterday, right? Then probably your results are a little bit subpar. So, your job is to be in the best stocks and really look for big range. There's a lot of it out there, but you got to still got to be hunted. Let's take a look here. This Fulcrum Therapeutics, biotechs have been hot. This got already 3 million shares in volume. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that run. A lot of the action on the small caps has really been in the $10 to $20 range versus the $0 to $10 range. The chart itself is okay. It's up a lot already. But this is kind of one of those ones that biotechs themselves, if you look at the IBB, this is the biotech index. This has been a really big high flyer this, last couple months. You should, if you're a swing trader, have probably a good chunk of your portfolios in terms of weighting into these kind of indexes that are trending. I tend not to hold individual biotech names as swings for the most part, because they're always stuck with news. But the overall, I'd rather trade the index or go with the 3x ETF on them, and usually get a little bit of a better run. Hey, this Zev had some news out that they got supposedly an $800 million contract. Look at this thing. I just saw this fucking news somewhere. It's something they got a little electric bus order or some bullshit. Frankly, this is probably the type of stock that can get going, but you're stuck right under the 200 SMA here. So what typically happens on something like this is it'll probably fade off at the open, and then you can see what'll end up happening is it'll start to hold around the VWAP, or even a little bit under the VWAP. You'll start to see it grind, and then from there, watch for a little bit of a push later. So I would actually keep this on, I would keep this on your watch list. I don't know if it's a top priority just because it's stuck under that 200 SMA. But frankly, like what we've seen is they'll break right over so quickly anyways that it doesn't necessarily matter. 1050 is where it would really kind of like, after it bases out, that's where it would have to go. And then you're good to go. Hey, this ARCT had earnings out. This was a big ranging stock, the last like few days. It's got a pretty low float on it. It's only $1 billion company. This is another one that's like in the right sector at the right time, though. I'd actually look, it's already fading off $10 of its gap. So we don't really know, how it's going to react. But let's watch this thing. If it starts to firm out, it may just roll the fuck over. But if it starts to hold somewhere, this is one that has a history of making moves, right? We just saw a few days ago when it ripped like 20 points into the close. Like that's the type of stock that we want to be in. So one of the big things as traders always have good memory, right? If you remember which ones have the biggest range and how they act, it'll give you a big edge in terms of just your entries and exits. FSR, I didn't see anything on this. Enforced water loss. Did anybody see anything on this? This thing's just popping up 20% for fun. A fucking upgrade. Let me see. Hold on one second. I'm so lazy. I'm not even Google it anymore. Oh yeah, RBC. I only saw one upgrade. That's it. Oh, the ball sacks. So the ball sacks put up. You know what? That might be a lot of times like brokers, especially Goldman ball sacks. They'll give upgrades up just so their buddies can like dump out of these things. If there wasn't really anything, an upgrade is worth a few percent usually, but it's really tricky on, it's a real tricky on like 20% move, like off a fucking upgrade. Like that's a little bit of a fool's gold right there. I'd probably just leave that alone. If anything, like if it just goes bonkers, because you know what happens? So right now, like there's a subset of traders that, right now that like they just see stocks that gap up and so they like just hit it, and I think that makes it good. I let this thing, there's probably somebody that'll try to piker this thing up a little bit higher, but like if it gets into like the 20 21 range, I'd probably I'd try to bang this thing back down. I'd add that, but for more of a like an afternoon fade, you really got to let the squeeze kind of fizzle out, because at some point with all these like Discord groups and all these like random chat rooms now, you'll have some asshole trying to push this thing, and you might get this thing to kind of squeeze out to 20, and then from there we'll see what's going on. Lufax Holdings, junk. And this ORMP's been real hot, but it's up a lot of days in a row here. And the liquidity's not been too crazy for that price range. Probably leave that alone. Whoa, triple D's. Look, triple D's on the last few times it's had earnings. So this was earnings date number 1 of the last, and it went on a monster cock run. And then it actually ran for days. I think, it had a 9 EMA D rider for 2 months. That's pretty hot. And then it was left for dead. And then right here, this was a secondary earnings day. This thing opened up at 20, dipped down real quick to 1968, and went berserko to 24. By the end of the day, you can see it came back down. But so the last 2 times it's gapped up on earnings, like it's had a nice run. Man, I don't even know what this one was up here. Oh fuck! Like this thing has a history of making moves on earnings. Like I would probably keep that like almost top of the list, just because we made a lot of money on this thing in the past. When you're always thinking about like stocks, like if you got 2 stocks that got the same damn setup, but one you really know how to massage the balls on it, and the other one you never heard of, you always kind of stick with the one you know. AMC. This was this was incredible. So I only get the like I use a bespoke newsletter, comes in end of the day, just kind of recaps what happened in the market. And so they gave like a summary of this conference call. And it's the fucking CEO was like, hey, we're thinking of partnering with, GameStop, and we're going to partner with GameStop and make and take Bitcoins at the front door. Hey, this is probably another one. Like it might run for a day or two. It's going to fizzle out almost no matter what, unless it breaks back over 47. That was the previous pop. Might be worth it. Might be worth a gander. I'd probably lean to short this thing. Like if it popped, like you really want it to squeeze. Like the thing is this, like, a nice like $2 pop is not really enough meat on the bones, right? To kind of come in and short it. If anything, I'd almost lean, like if it dips and holds, I'd really actually lean long on this for a couple days and really let the squeeze play out. From there, I think we'll take this thing back down. Like if you got 45 on this thing, you could short the shit out of this thing and really have yourself a nice time. Let's add that to the list. Look, it's going to be in play. The whole world is always watching this thing, which makes it a little bit trickier. And usually the gappers that like, not a lot of people are really thinking about can often be the ones that get sneaky. But this one is going to have a lot of liquidity in it today. It's going to have a lot of liquidity in it today. Airball, so you fund your E-Trade account. Don't ask us E-Trade questions. Okay. You've been sitting on that account for months. Halo, and not enough liquidity. Astrolube. Yeah, man. They gapped this thing out of our range. Okay, so this is how you want to play this thing. So you've had a 3-day range. 3-day range at 1150. It's already popped up like, to $12. If it comes back down and like kind of retests this, or it gets close and makes a higher low, that's when I'd probably be more interested in this thing. But the gap kind of fucked it up, to be honest. I like Astrolube in general. It makes for an interesting weekend, but this is a tricky one. This MVST, guys, this is probably a leave alone, if anything. Somewhere it's going to roll over probably in one of these spots here. This is the time to probably take this piggy down. You're at $8. I'd go with 16. 8 to 14 is not an epic, but if you get that thing somewhere between 15 and 16, start watching for a little afternoon fade. You know how it goes. Let it spike, squeeze out all the shorts, and then it'll start to fizzle around noon. You'll start to see it curl down, break under its 9 EMA. That's when you want to come in hot. That's not too bad. Butt plug. Yeah. If I could turn the fucking Voozy, man. I used to love Voozy. The Voozy. Speaking of, we had a guy in our chat room named Voozy. What the fuck happened to him? Fallen Soldier? What was his name? I changed it to Voozy, but he had like an actual Italian name. Shit. I'll have to find him. Maybe he didn't pass the audit. If you guys get any messages from somebody, Kevin, that's my childhood friend. We didn't have any work for him to do, so we created a Discord audit just fucking so he'd have something to do. So if you get a message from Kevin, we had to give him a little bit of work. Voozy, distribution. Man, this thing's a turd. I don't even know if there's really any point of shorting this thing anymore after it's been down this much. It might be worth a gander here. It looks like it's had some news out, but that's not a priority. Add it to the list for now, but not a priority. If I could turn back time, if I could find a way. The GOAT? Man, the GOAT had earnings out, huh? that's not a lot of growth. Hey, the Chinese stocks are starting to round. The PDD looks okay. The GOAT, huh? I think, was GNOG a buyout, Sebastian? I was looking at it yesterday. What was the news on that bad boy? Hey, if the GOAT breaks under 2050, we got to take this thing down. I mean, frankly, the GOAT's going to be a little bit tricky, I think, today. It's lost a lot of its range. Frankly, if you can only grow $2 million in this like today's world, I mean, your fucking business is in shambles anyways. Short list, I know, turd. Jump. Let me see, Sebastian. I didn't look at GNOG. I think this was a buyout. Yeah, you see this, brother? I think DraftKings bought them out. So it's like still trading, but it's not going to have any range. Good. Let's take a look at the regular watch list, and let's have ourselves a little party. So we got DocuSign. Still waiting for that beautiful breakout. Hey, one thing with DocuSign is the day it breaks out, like it's probably going to get, this is how I usually work. It'll probably get like a $7, $8 mega penis candle, like right off at the open, and then it'll fucking dump, and then, it'll grind its way back. That seems to be the case on some of these like little bit thinner ones. So I would keep an alert right at like 309. My gut feeling, like they just turned the algos on these things, even on these thin ones now. Everybody will be watching this bad boy. If it breaks, probably, $5 to $10 MPC candle, and then it'll dump back off. It might even like dump a lot of